The stars stretched out like silver dust across the black canvas of space. Among them moved the shining flagship of the United Earth Alliance, Eternal Horizon. Inside the ship, Captain Daniel Hayes stood quietly, staring through the wide observation window. His reflection stared back at him, a tall man with steady eyes and a calm face, though his heart beat faster than he liked to admit. Today was not an ordinary mission. Today he was to represent all of humanity before the Xylar Dominion, one of the oldest and most powerful empires in the galaxy. Humanity was still young compared to most interstellar civilizations. Many alien races saw humans as reckless, too emotional, and far too fragile to survive in the wider universe. But Daniel carried a different belief. He believed that what humans lacked in strength or age, they made up for in spirit. His mission was not only about diplomacy, but also about showing the Xylar that humanity had something worth respecting. The docking sequence began. The giant Xylar space station loomed ahead, its design sharp and majestic like crystal blades arranged into a fortress. When the docking clamps locked in place, Daniel straightened his uniform and exhaled. This was it. Walking down the long corridor, he entered the grand hall of the Xylar Council. The place was overwhelming. Towering walls decorated with glowing runes, pillars made from shimmering metal, and a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. Around him stood tall Xylar guards, their silver armor gleaming under pale blue lights. The Xylar themselves were elegant beings. Their skin shimmered faintly with an iridescent glow and their eyes were bright like gemstones. They moved with calm precision, every gesture controlled, every step measured. Compared to them, Daniel felt painfully human, plain, unshining, and very mortal. At the far end of the hall sat the Xylar Emperor on a throne of crystal. His presence was commanding, his face carved with age and wisdom. But beside him stood someone else, someone Daniel had not expected. She was younger, her frame slender, her glow softer than the others. Her hair shimmered like silver silk, flowing down her back, and her eyes were a vivid green unlike any jewel Daniel had ever seen. She wore a flowing robe with delicate patterns that seemed to ripple with light. The Emperor's daughter, Princess Ariala Xylaris. Daniel bowed respectfully as protocol demanded, but when his eyes met hers, he felt something stir inside him. It was not fear nor admiration for her beauty. It was curiosity. Unlike the other Xylar, who looked at him, with cold calculation her gaze held warmth in something else. Interest. The Emperor spoke first, his voice echoing across the chamber. Human representative, you stand before the dominion of Xylar. Speak your purpose. Daniel's voice was calm, steady. I come as a diplomat of Earth to seek peace and cooperation. Humanity does not wish for conflict. We believe there is strength in friendship. Some of the Xylar Council members whispered among themselves. To them, such words sounded naive. Friendship? In their empire, alliances were made only through power or necessity. But Princess Ariala tilted her head, studying him. You speak of friendship, she said, her voice clear and melodic. A concept your people value strongly. Why do you believe it is stronger than power? The council hall went silent. No Xylar princess had ever questioned a foreign envoy. Directly, and certainly not with such open curiosity. Daniel did not flinch. Instead, he smiled slightly. Because power ends when someone stronger appears. Friendship lasts when people choose to stand together, even in weakness. Humanity may be young, but we have learned that trust can outlast armies. The council murmured louder this time, some with disapproval, others with disbelief. Yet Ariala's eyes widened just a little. For the first time, she heard someone speak of something beyond calculation and strength. The Emperor raised a hand, silencing the chamber. We shall see if your words hold meaning, human. For now, you will be our guest. The meeting ended, formally, and Daniel was escorted to the guest wing of the station. Yet as he walked away, he felt a gaze following him. When he turned slightly, he caught the faintest smile on the princess's lips before she turned away. Later that evening, Daniel stood on the balcony of his chamber, watching alien stars twinkle. The station orbited a giant blue gas planet, its swirling clouds glowing faintly. The view was breathtaking, but his mind replayed the moment in the council hall, the way Ariala's voice carried curiosity, not disdain. A sudden soft sound made him turn. Standing at the edge of the balcony was Princess Ariala herself. 2 guards stood at a distance, but they allowed her presence without question. "Princess," Daniel said, bowing slightly, unsure if this was proper. "You may speak freely here," she replied, stepping closer. Her robe shimmered softly in the starlight. "Tell me, Captain Hayes, do humans always speak with such boldness?" Daniel chuckled quietly. "Some do. Some prefer silence. I guess I am one of the bold ones. And yet," she said, studying him, "you are not arrogant. You do not speak as one who believes himself superior. That is unusual." Her words surprised him. "I speak because I believe every being deserves respect. Even if we are different, we share the same stars." For a moment, silence stretched between them. The distant hum of the station filled the air. Ariala lowered her gaze, thoughtful. In Xylar tradition, emotions are considered weakness. We are taught to value logic, efficiency, and control. But when you spoke in the council, I felt something I could not explain. "Is this what humans call feeling?" Daniel smiled softly. "Yes, feeling is what makes us human. It can be messy, confusing, even painful. But it is also what makes life beautiful. Without it, we are only machines." Tio, Princess's eyes lingered on him, searching as if trying to understand something beyond her world. Finally, a small, rare smile touched her lips. "Perhaps there is more to your kind than the council believes." As she turned to leave, Daniel felt a sense of wonder. The Xylar were known for their cold logic, yet the princess had shown him curiosity, warmth, even the beginnings of trust. It was a small thing, but in diplomacy, small things could move mountains. When the doors closed behind her, Daniel leaned against the railing, his heart steady but his mind racing. He had come here for peace, but he could not shake the feeling that something greater had just begun. And far away, in her private chamber, Princess Ariala touched her chest lightly, feeling the faint echo of something new, something her people had never named, but humanity knew well. The seed of connection had been planted. The galaxy had no idea how much this simple meeting would change everything. The next morning, Princess Ariala sat by the tall window of her chamber, watching the Xylar space station rotate slowly above the gas planet below. The golden sunrise of the distant star cast long shadows across her room, making the walls glow like molten metal. Yet her mind was far from the beauty outside. She could not stop thinking about the human, Captain Daniel Hayes. Ariala had seen many species in her lifetime. She had studied their politics, observed their cultures, and learned to calculate their strengths and weaknesses. But no other being had stirred something inside her like this human had. His words in the council hall still echoed in her mind. Trust, friendship, feeling. The word was almost foreign in her world. The Xylar were trained from birth to control emotion, to see it as weakness. Love, desire, even curiosity beyond logic. They were considered inefficient distractions. And yet here she was thinking of Daniel with a smile she had not worn in years. Her advisor, a tall Xylar named Vaynar, entered quietly. His robes shimmered like liquid silver, and his voice was calm but firm. "Your Highness," he began, "the council grows impatient with the human representative. They question your attention toward him. It is unusual for a princess to show interest in an alien." Ariala did not look at him. "Do you not see, Vaynar? He is not just an alien. He is different. He does not follow your calculations, your rules. He speaks with honesty and courage. That is something we rarely see even among our own people." Vaynar frowned slightly. And yet, Princess, he is human, fragile, short-lived. Our traditions do not allow such personal connections with those outside the Dominion. Our unions are contracts, not choices of the heart. You risk more than you understand. Ariala turned to him, her eyes sharp. Perhaps our traditions are too narrow. Perhaps we have forgotten that strength can exist in forms we do not recognize. I feel drawn to him, Vaynar. This is not weakness. It is understanding. It is curiosity. It is human. Vaynar hesitated, then spoke softly. If you pursue this, the council will object. The Emperor may forbid it. The galaxy may see it as folly. Ariala smiled faintly, almost sadly. And yet, I cannot ignore it. I will not ignore it. Humans are short-lived, yes, but their hearts are vast. Perhaps in their brevity they understand what matters most. Perhaps Daniel is one such human. She rose from her seat and walked to the balcony. Below, the docking bays were bustling with activity. Alien ships glimmered in the sunlight as crews moved with precision. And somewhere out there, Daniel walked among the Xyler guards, oblivious to the storm of thoughts he had stirred in the princess's mind. Her heart, a concept she rarely acknowledged, seemed to beat faster whenever she thought of him. Every gesture, every word from the human replayed in her mind. His calm respect, his clever humor, his willingness to speak truth even before those who considered him insignificant. It was frustrating. It was confusing. And it was exhilarating. Ariala's reflection in the glass caught her attention. Her eyes were wide, her lips slightly parted. She looked like a ruler, yes, but more than that, she looked like a being at a crossroads. The thought of defying her people was not easy. She knew the council, the Emperor, even her own advisors would see her attraction to Daniel as dangerous. But the more she resisted, the stronger the pull became. Later that day, she requested a private meeting with Daniel. The human arrived promptly, bowing with his usual calm demeanor. "Princess Ariala," he said politely. "You requested my presence?" "Yes," she replied, her voice steady, though her mind raced. "I wish to speak freely, alone." Daniel nodded, understanding the gravity in her tone. The guards respectfully stepped back and they were left on the quiet balcony, the stars stretching endlessly above them. Ariala hesitated for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "Captain Hayes, your words yesterday in the council, they were strange. Not strange as in foolish, but strange as in important. You spoke of friendship, trust, feeling. These are not ideas we Xyler value, and yet I find myself thinking of them constantly, thinking of you." Daniel's eyes softened. "Princess, I did not mean to cause you confusion, but what I said is true. Humanity's strength lies not only in technology or power, but in our hearts. We risk, we love, we care, even when it is dangerous. That is what allows us to survive, against impossible odds." Ariala looked down, twirling a strand of her silver hair. "And yet, if I were to feel such things for you, I would be risking everything. My title, my duty, my people, even my own family. I do not know if I am ready for that." Daniel stepped closer, his voice gentle. "Princess, I do not ask you to choose lightly. I only ask that you consider that life is not only rules and duty. Sometimes the things we cannot measure, the things we feel, are what truly make life meaningful." Her gaze met his, and she felt warmth she could not explain. It was not just the physical warmth, but a feeling of being seen, truly seen. No one in her life had ever looked at her that way. Not her tutors, not the council, not even the Emperor. And now, a human, fragile, young, and unknown, had given her a gift she could not name. Yet doubt lingered. The council would not approve. The Emperor would be furious. Her people might consider her foolish. She was a princess of one of the oldest empires in the galaxy, trained to follow logic, strategy, and tradition. And here she was, drawn to a human as if pulled by invisible threads of destiny. Ariala turned away, looking at the swirling clouds of the gas planet below. "I do not know if I can do this," she whispered. "I do not know if I can follow my feelings." Daniel's hand rested lightly on the railing close to hers, though not touching. "You do not have to decide now. But know this. What you feel is not weakness. It is recognition. It is humanity, even if you are not human. And if you choose to embrace it, I will be here." Her chest tightened at his words. Embrace it, such a simple phrase, yet so powerful. She had spent her life measuring duty and efficiency, yet in one sentence he reminded her that life could also be about choice, connection, and heart. For hours, they spoke quietly, sharing stories of Earth, of Xylar traditions, of places they had never been. Daniel told her of oceans that glowed with tiny lights at night, of forests so dense they seemed alive, of deserts that stretched for miles under a burning sun. Ariala, in turn, spoke of Xylar stars that sang with light, of cities carved from crystal, and of generations of rulers who had built the Dominion into a galaxy-spanning empire. Through each story, the distance between human and Xylar seemed smaller, and yet, the challenge remained. The Council would not see these words or stories. They would see only her actions, and if she allowed herself to care for him, it would be considered scandalous, dangerous, even treasonous. That night, Ariala lay, awake in her chamber. The glow of the stars outside mingled with the faint shimmer of her room. She thought of Daniel, his calm confidence, his kindness, his laughter that seemed to light even the cold halls of the station. Her heart ached, not with fear, but with possibility. Finally, she rose and walked to the balcony, breathing in the alien night. The universe seemed vast and endless, yet somehow it felt as if all paths converged at this moment. She whispered into the silent air, "Captain Hayes, I do not know what the future holds, but I cannot ignore what I feel. I will learn. I will try to understand." Far away, in his quarters, Daniel stared at the stars as well, feeling the same pull, the same connection. Though they were from worlds apart, though the galaxy itself seemed to stand between them, something undeniable had begun. A human and a princess. Two hearts from different worlds, and the story of their connection had only just begun. The galaxy might see weakness in what they felt, but in that moment, Ariala realized that sometimes the greatest strength lay in daring to feel, even when it was dangerous. And for the first time, the princess wondered if humanity's heart could truly change her world. The morning light spilled across the Xylar Council chamber like liquid silver. Captain Daniel Hayes stood before the Emperor, his uniform crisp, his expression calm but alert. Beside him, Princess Ariala's green eyes shone with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Today, Daniel would face a challenge that could determine not just his fate, but the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. The Emperor's voice was deep and commanding. "Human," he began, "your words of friendship and courage are noted. But words alone do not impress the Xylar. Your species is young, fragile, and untested in the trials that shape rulers and leaders. If you wish to gain our trust, you must first prove humanity's worth." Daniel nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty. Tell me what I must do." The Emperor's gaze was sharp. "You will undergo 3 trials, one of strength, one of strategy, and one of wisdom. If you succeed, you will show that humans are capable of more than your council believes. If you fail—" He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "You will leave this station immediately, and no further audience will be granted." Daniel swallowed, feeling the weight of the challenge, yet his resolve did not waver. "I will do my best." Ariala stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Father, I believe in him. He may be human, but he has a heart stronger than many Xylar leaders. I will watch and support him." The Emperor's eyes softened slightly at his daughter's words, but he did not speak further. The council began to prepare the trials. Trial of Strength. The first trial took place in the arena, a vast circular chamber suspended above the station's core. Energy fields shimmered across the floor, designed to test endurance and resilience. Xylar competitors moved with flawless precision, their bodies stronger and faster than any human could hope to match. Daniel stepped into the arena, feeling the gaze of hundreds of Xylar upon him. He was human, fragile by their standards, but he did not let fear take hold. The trial began with the lifting of massive energy weights, each one calibrated to test the limits of strength. The Xylar expected him to fail quickly, but Daniel relied not on brute force alone. He used technique, balance, and timing. With careful movements, he lifted each weight, surprising even the observers. When a final, enormous weight appeared, the Tamr crowd gasped. Daniel's arms shook, sweat running down his face, but he did not give up. He focused on his training, remembering Earth's lessons of perseverance. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted the weight high, holding it steady. The arena erupted in murmurs. A human, holding the impossible. Princess Ariala's eyes shone with admiration. She had never seen determination like this in anyone, Xylar or otherwise. Trial of Strategy. The second trial tested not muscle, but mind. Daniel was led into a chamber filled with holographic projections, simulated star systems, fleets, and alien civilizations. He was given the task of resolving a conflict between two warring species. Failure would result in devastation for one side. The Xylar expected him to panic. Humans, they believed, lacked the ability to predict outcomes with precision. But Daniel approached the simulation calmly. He studied the fleets, calculated possible outcomes, and considered both sides' needs. Instead of choosing one side over the other, he found a creative solution. He proposed a coordinated alliance, using shared resources to resolve the conflict without bloodshed. The projection responded, showing peaceful settlements forming across the holographic planets. The council was stunned. This human had demonstrated strategy not by dominance, but by understanding, compromise, and creativity. Even Ariala's father, the Emperor, tilted his head slightly, clearly impressed despite himself. Trial of Wisdom. The final trial took Daniel to a quiet chamber filled with ancient Xylar texts, some older than the human history books he had ever seen. He was presented with a riddle, a test of insight rather than strength. "You must answer without error," said the Emperor. "One false step, and the trial ends." Daniel listened carefully. The riddle spoke of cycles, of balance, and of choices that affected both life and death. He took a deep breath, remembering what he had learned not only in science and logic but in life. Humans, though young, had survived through adaptability, compassion, and understanding. Finally, he spoke. His answer was simple, yet profound. Life is not only about what we gain or lose. It is about how we connect with others, how we make choices that respect both ourselves and those around us. True wisdom is balance, and it comes from understanding, not just knowledge. The chamber fell silent. Slowly, the lights shifted, and a tone of approval echoed through the room. Daniel had passed. Recognition and reflection. When all trials were complete, Daniel stood again before the Emperor. The council was silent, their expressions a mixture of astonishment and contemplation. "You have surprised us, human," the Emperor said. "Not through brute force nor through simple intellect, but through qualities uncommon in any species. Your courage, creativity, and compassion have proven that humans are not to be underestimated." Daniel bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only hope that my people and I can continue to prove ourselves worthy of friendship and trust." The Emperor nodded slowly. "See that you do. You may now meet with Princess Ariala." As Daniel left the council chamber, he felt a mixture of relief and pride. But his thoughts were not on himself. They were on the princess. Would she be proud? Would she see him as more than just a human trying to survive alien trials? When he entered her private quarters, he found her waiting, a faint smile on her lips. "You did it," she said softly. You passed all 3 trials. I am impressed more than I can say. Not just for the trials, but for how you faced them. You think you care and you never give up. That is more than any Xyler has shown me. Daniel smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. I could not have done it without knowing you were watching. Your belief, it gave me strength I did not know I had. Ariala's eyes softened. Perhaps humans are stronger than we give them credit for. Perhaps your hearts, your determination, your choices are what make you truly powerful. Daniel stepped closer, unsure if he should, but compelled by something beyond logic. And perhaps that is why I am drawn to you, Princess. Not because of your title or your people or your empire, but because of who you are. You see not just my species, but me. For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken thoughts and possibilities. Outside the window, stars shimmered, distant and eternal. But in that chamber, a bridge had been built between 2 worlds, one of understanding, of respect, and of a connection that defied the expectations of both civilizations. Ariala reached out, her fingers brushing lightly against his hand. Captain Hayes, I do not know what the future holds, but I know that today, you have shown me that perhaps there is more to life than rules and duty. Perhaps humans understand something we Xylar have forgotten. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. And perhaps, Princess, that is why I am here. Not just to prove humanity, but to remind the galaxy that even the smallest, youngest species can change the course of history. Through courage, through heart, and through connection. Her eyes glistened with emotion, a soft, human-like emotion that few Xylar ever displayed. Then, perhaps our worlds can learn from each other. Perhaps we can be more than tradition and expectation. And for the first time, Ariala allowed herself to imagine something she had never permitted before, a future that included the human before her, not just as a guest or diplomat, but as someone who could walk beside her, not through duty, but through choice. In the quiet chamber, amid the silver light of alien stars, the seeds of something extraordinary began to take root. The trials were over. Daniel had proven humanity's worth. But neither of them knew that the greatest challenge, the challenge of their hearts, was only just beginning. The galaxy had watched as a human succeeded where many expected failure. And in the heart of a princess, a spark had been lit that could change the course of empires. The Galactic Council chamber was larger than any hall Daniel had ever seen. Its walls shimmered with energy, reflecting the distant stars beyond the massive windows. Delegates from dozens of worlds were gathered, their expressions curious, skeptical, and in some cases openly dismissive of the human representative. Captain Daniel Hayes stepped forward, his uniform perfect, his face calm. He had faced Xylar trials, challenged expectations, and proven humanity's worth. But today was different. Today, he would challenge the traditions of an entire empire. And perhaps, if courage held, he would change the course of history. Princess Ariala Xylaris sat at the front, her green eyes wide, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The delegates around her whispered in disbelief. A human in their midst had survived trials, and now whispers spread even faster. He was about to speak directly to the princess. The Emperor cleared his throat. Representative of Earth, you may speak. State your purpose before this council. Daniel straightened. His gaze swept over the room, taking in the faces of alien rulers, warriors, and diplomats. Many expected him to speak of treaties or alliances, but words alone were not enough. This required honesty, courage, and perhaps the most dangerous thing of all, emotion. He stepped closer to Princess Ariala, his voice calm, steady, yet full of feeling. Princess Ariala, I have come before you not just as a diplomat, not just as a human seeking friendship between our worlds. I have come because I wish to ask something no protocol can prepare for, and no tradition can forbid. I wish to ask if you will marry me." A stunned silence filled the chamber. The delegates froze mid-gesture. The Emperor's eyes widened. Slightly, his expression unreadable. Even the Xylar guards blinked in disbelief. A human had just made an unprecedented proposal to the daughter of the Xylar Emperor in the middle of a galactic council. Princess Ariala's jaw dropped. She had expected conversation, perhaps debate, even diplomacy, but never this. Never such boldness. "Marry you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Daniel knelt before her, as humans had done for centuries in their own ceremonies. "Yes, Princess. I know I am human, fragile by your standards, young and untested by your empire's history. But I speak honestly. I see you not only as a princess, but as a person, a being of courage, kindness, and wisdom. I wish to stand beside you, not as a subject, not as a diplomat, but as a partner, a companion, and perhaps one day more." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates shook their heads in disbelief, certain that the princess would reject him immediately. Others whispered to their neighbors, wondering if this human truly understood the audacity of his action. Ariala blinked, struggling to find words. Her heart raced. Her people had taught her that love was inefficient, that emotions could cloud judgment, and that alliances must be made with logic, power, or necessity. And yet in front of her, a human had risked everything. Not for duty, not for gain, but for something they both knew was far more powerful. Choice. The council waited. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, but there was no anger, only curiosity and, perhaps, a hint of admiration. Ariala took a deep breath. She had to speak, not only for herself, but for the human who had risked everything to be honest with her. "Captain Hayes, you are unlike anyone I have ever known. Your courage is astonishing. Your heart is remarkable. And yet, this is unheard of, unthinkable, impossible." Daniel looked up at her, his eyes steady. "I know it is bold. I know it may seem impossible, but I do not ask you to answer now. I only ask that you consider what this could mean, for both of us, and for the worlds we represent." Her mind raced. The council, the Emperor, the entire Xylar Empire, they would see a human as fragile, unworthy, even foolish. And yet, she felt a spark of something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Freedom. The freedom to choose. The Emperor's voice cut through the silence, calm but firm. "Princess Ariala, how do you respond to this human audacity?" Ariala rose slowly. Every eye in the chamber was on her. Her pulse quickened, but she spoke with clarity and strength. "I am surprised," she admitted, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "I have always been taught that love and emotion are weaknesses, that alliances must be forged through duty, not choice. And yet here stands a human who does not ask for power, status, or obligation. He asks only for me." She paused, letting her words sink in. The delegates whispered among themselves, shocked at the princess's candor. "I cannot deny," she continued, "that what he asks is unprecedented, bold, even reckless, and yet I see something rare in him, something I have never seen in my people. Compassion, courage, honesty, the willingness to risk everything for what he believes in." Her gaze met Daniel's. "Captain Hayes, you have shaken not only the expectations of the council, but the foundations of my own beliefs. I do not know what the future holds, but I am willing to learn. I am willing to see if your words, your heart, and your courage can stand beside me." A quiet gasp filled the chamber. No princess in Xylar history had ever spoken so openly. The council looked at the Emperor, searching for guidance, but he remained silent, his expression unreadable. Daniel rose slowly, his heart pounding, but a smile of relief and hope touched his face. "Princess, if you choose to accept, I promise to honor you, to respect you, and to walk beside you through whatever challenges come." not as a human beneath you, nor as a diplomat seeking favor, but as a partner in every sense of the word. Ariala's eyes shimmered. The weight of tradition, expectation, and empire pressed down upon her. Yet in that moment she felt a lightness she had never known. To make a choice of her own heart, to choose someone not for duty, but for connection. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "I accept," she said finally, her voice clear and unwavering. "Not because of rules or tradition, but because I wish to. I wish to see if what you speak of, friendship, trust, and heart, can truly bridge the gap between our worlds." The chamber erupted into murmurs. Some delegates stared in shock. Others began to whisper words of approval. The emperor leaned back, his expression thoughtful. Even the guards allowed themselves brief looks of wonder. Daniel stepped forward, gently taking her hand. "Then we will face the future together, Princess. Whatever it may hold, we will face it side by side." Ariala squeezed his hand, feeling warmth and strength flow from his grip. "Side by side," she repeated, her voice soft but certain. "Let the galaxy watch. Let them see that choice, heart, and courage are stronger than fear and tradition." Outside, the chamber. The stars seemed to shine brighter as if acknowledging the bond formed within. The human and the princess, two beings from worlds apart, had defied expectations and chosen each other. Not for power, not for politics, but for what was most precious: the freedom to love and to connect. For Daniel, the trials of strength, strategy, and wisdom had been important. But in that moment he realized the greatest trial had been this: the courage to speak his heart before an entire empire and hope it would be received. And it had been. For Ariala, the boldness of this human had changed her understanding of the universe. He had reminded her that strength was not only in power or tradition, but in courage, honesty, and the willingness to take risks for what matters most. The council would take time to adjust. Some delegates would never accept this union. Some would see it as folly. But change had begun. And sometimes change required courage, not just in battle or strategy, but in the simple brave act of choosing love. As Daniel and Ariala stood hand in hand before the council, the galaxy seemed to pause, taking notice. For in that moment, humanity's heart had proven itself, not only to the Xyler but to the stars themselves, and the story of the human who dared to propose and the princess who dared to accept was only beginning. The announcement had echoed across the Xyler Empire like a thunderclap. Princess Ariala had accepted Captain Daniel Hay's proposal, choosing a human not for power or politics, but for heart and courage. The council chamber was still buzzing, with murmurs and speculation. Delegates from dozens of worlds exchanged uneasy glances, some in disbelief, others in quiet admiration. Daniel stood beside Ariala, holding her hand gently. The warmth of her touch reminded him that this union was about more than diplomacy. It was about trust, connection, and a shared belief in the value of humanity's spirit. The Emperor's expression was calm but unreadable. He had seen many things in his long life, but this was unusual, even by Xyler standards. Finally he spoke, his deep voice echoing across the chamber. "You have chosen freely, Princess Ariala. You have looked beyond tradition, beyond expectation, and made a decision based on understanding and courage. While some may see this as reckless, others may see it as wisdom. Let it be known, the future of the Dominion will not ignore this choice." Ariala bowed respectfully to her father. "Thank you, Father. I hope to show that heart and courage are not weaknesses, but strengths that can unite worlds." Daniel squeezed her hand, feeling the steady rhythm of her resolve. "And I will stand beside you, Princess, not only as a partner but as someone who will protect, respect, and honor you and the people you represent." The Empire reacts. The news spread quickly through the Empire. Many Xyler leaders were skeptical. "A human? The daughter of the Emperor? It is impossible," whispered some. Others, however, began to see the value in Daniel's actions. His courage, honesty, and intelligence had been undeniable in the trials. If a human could meet the standards of the Xylar, perhaps their hearts held more strength than anyone had imagined. Ariala spent days meeting with the council, explaining her decision, and demonstrating that choosing love and trust did not mean abandoning duty. Slowly, the walls of tradition began to bend. Discussions arose about the potential for collaboration, not only politically, but culturally. The union became a symbol of what was possible when different worlds respected each other. Daniel, meanwhile, worked tirelessly to understand Xylar culture, learning their language, customs, and history. He wanted to show the Empire that humanity was capable not only of heart, but also of respect and wisdom. Every gesture, every word, every act of kindness helped bridge the gap between human and Xylar. A new era, months passed, and the bond between Daniel and Ariala grew stronger. They trained together, discussed policies, and even explored the far reaches of the Empire in private missions. Daniel's humanity, the creativity, resilience, and empathy he carried, became an example not just for Ariala, but for Xylar citizens who began to see humans in a new light. Ariala, in turn, showed Daniel the beauty of Xylar traditions, the cities carved from crystal, the songs of the stars, and the deep wisdom of her people. She taught him patience, strategy, and the quiet power of observation. Together, they learned from each other, blending human and Xylar strengths into a partnership that was both personal and symbolic. The galaxy began to take notice. Humans, once underestimated and dismissed by many alien species, were now recognized as a people of courage and heart. Daniel and Ariala's bond became a living example of unity between worlds, a reminder that differences were not weaknesses, but opportunities for growth and understanding. The wedding, the day of their union, was a celebration unlike any other in the history of the Xylar Empire. The ceremony took place on the upper platform of the station, with the gas giant below glowing in soft blue and purple hues. Delegates from countless worlds attended, some skeptical, some curious, all eager to witness a human-princess union. Daniel stood at the center of the platform, his uniform polished, his eyes bright with anticipation. Princess Ariala descended, gracefully, her robes shimmering with subtle light. When her eyes met Daniel's, the world seemed to disappear. For that moment, nothing mattered except the connection between them. The Emperor gave a nod of approval, his voice steady. Let this union symbolize not only the bond between two hearts, but the bond between our worlds. Let it remind all that strength is found in courage, and courage in the heart. Vows were exchanged, simple, honest, and filled with the spirit of two worlds coming together. Daniel promised to honor, respect, and cherish Ariala. Ariala promised to stand beside him, to trust, and to believe in the strength of their connection. As they clasped hands, the assembled crowd erupted into applause, and even the skeptics felt the undeniable truth of what had just occurred. Love and courage could change the galaxy. A symbol of hope. Following the ceremony, Daniel and Ariala traveled across the Empire. They visited cities that had never welcomed humans, meeting leaders and citizens alike. Everywhere they went, their presence inspired hope and curiosity. Humans were no longer seen as fragile or reckless. They were seen as partners capable of remarkable courage and heart. The couple also worked to strengthen alliances, showing that cooperation between species could achieve what force alone never could. Their union became a symbol. Even the smallest, youngest, or most underestimated species could influence history through determination, honesty, and connection. At night, when the stars stretched endlessly above, Daniel and Ariala often stood together on the balcony of the station, speaking quietly of hopes, dreams, and the future. You've changed so much here, Ariala said one evening, her hand in his. The Empire, even my father, sees humans differently now. Daniel smiled. We've done it together. Humanity's heart is strong, but it needed someone like you to show it how to shine in this galaxy. Ariala leaned her head on his shoulder. And you've shown me that life is not only rules, duty, or tradition. It is courage, choice, and connection. That is what makes it meaningful. Daniel kissed her forehead gently. Then we'll face the future together. Whatever challenges come, we face them as equals, as partners, as more than just allies. Together. The future begins. Years passed, and the story of Daniel and Ariala became legend. Their children grew, learning both human and Xylar ways, a living symbol of unity and understanding. The alliance between Earth and the Xylar dominion strengthened, built not on fear or dominance, but on trust and mutual respect. Daniel often reflected on how far humanity had come. Once underestimated, once dismissed, humans were now recognized as beings of courage, creativity, and heart. And it all began with one human's willingness to speak honestly, one princess's willingness to choose freely, and a single moment of connection that changed the course of history. The galaxy watched as a new era unfolded, a time when different species could learn from one another, grow stronger together, and recognize that even the smallest hearts could make the greatest difference. And at the center of it all were Daniel and Ariala, standing hand in hand, looking at the stars, knowing that the future was theirs to shape, not through power, not through fear, but through the strength of their hearts. In that union, humanity's courage had been proven, and the galaxy, vast and endless, had never felt more alive. The choice of two hearts had rewritten tradition, inspired hope, and reminded every being that true strength often comes in the most unexpected forms. And so, the story of the human and the alien princess became more than a tale. It became a promise that courage, honesty, and love could unite worlds, bridge galaxies, and change the universe forever.